The shocking truth about Enoch the prophet, taken by God at 3 a.m. forever. Enoch, the ancient prophet, was said to have vanished without a trace at 3 a.m., a detail that sent chills down the spines of even the most hardened skeptics. In the dead of night, as shadows stretched across the land, he was conjured before the heavens, leaving behind nothing but whispers and rumors. Was he truly taken by God? Or was there something more sinister lurking in the shadows of history? The town of Cedar Creek still buzzed with wild stories, and locals would gather in hushed tones, their eyes darting to the dark corners of the room. "Did you hear?" a voice would quiver. "They say the ground where he stood still pulses with energy." The old oak tree in the center of town became a makeshift monument, and strange occurrences began to unfold: flickering streetlights, unnerving echoes in the silence, and a lingering, spectral mist that seemed to cling to the very essence of the night. People started to report seeing flashes of light at odd hours, flickering like a heartbeat. At times, voices would carry on the wind, calling out for Enoch. Once, a midnight jogger stumbled upon the sight and collapsed, terrified, stating he could feel a presence watching him, a weight pressing down on his chest as if he were being both chased and embraced by the unknown. He was never the same after that night. It only got stranger. On the anniversary of Enoch's disappearance, a local teenager claimed to have spotted a figure by the oak, his silhouette stark against the dim glow of the moon. Heart racing, she reached for her phone, but just as it lit up, the figure vanished. No laugh, no warning, just a void where something had once been. The townsfolk speculated everything from urban legends to an ancient curse. Fear gripped them, but curiosity kept drawing them closer. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just when everyone thought they had seen it all, the whispers escalated. A heavy storm moved overhead, lightning crackling and illuminating shadows that danced like specters. Eyes widened in collective dread as a series of massive trees suddenly fell, revealing something twisted beneath the roots. Was it a clue, or just another urban legend gone amok? Closed mouths turned into screams of panic, each person backing away, feeling the weight of history pulling at their feet. But there, emerging from the chaos, was a locket. A shimmering piece caught in the deluge, half buried in mud and debris. It blinked like a star against the seething dread of the storm, beckoning them closer. Was it Enoch's? Had it truly belonged to him? As the thunder rumbled, an uneasy silence fell over the crowd. What would this locket reveal? And why now? The mystery deepened, as if the night itself were holding its breath, waiting, watching. What lay ahead as they dared to unravel the shocking truth about Enoch the prophet? The crowd stood frozen, eyes fixated on the locket as if it held the key to Enoch's long-buried secrets. The storm raged on, but for that small moment, the tension in Cedar Creek hung heavier than the rain-soaked air. Whispered questions buzzed from person to person, growing louder with every heartbeat. Who would dare to touch it? Would it unlock the mysteries they'd been afraid to confront, or would it only serve to deepen their horror? Maggie, a determined local with a fierce heart, stepped forward despite the apprehension sweeping through the crowd. "I'll do it," she declared, voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of uncertainty. She felt the weight of the town's history pressing around her, a stark reminder of all the tales recounted by her grandmother beside the fireplace. Those stories of Enoch and the darkness that lingered still seemed to reach out, grasping for her. As she knelt in the mud, hands shaking just slightly, she reached for the locket. Cold and slick, it felt almost alive beneath her fingertips. With a deep breath, she flipped it open. The storm around her faded, all she could focus on was the image inside. A portrait of Enoch. His eyes stared back at her, dark and piercing, filled with an enigmatic light that seemed to pulse. What's happening?" a voice trembled from behind her. It was Dylan, the skeptic of the group, his usual bravado stripped bare in the face of the mystery unfolding. People began to whisper louder now, questions swirling like the wind around them. Enoch's gaze seemed to penetrate Maggie's soul, igniting something within her, a sense of purpose she had never known. Maggie felt the heat rising in her chest as visions danced behind her eyes. In a flash, she saw Enoch standing beside the oak, arms outstretched, as lightning split the sky behind him. The energy of the night pulsed in her veins. She could almost hear the faintest whisper, Enoch's voice calling out to her amidst the storm, tugging her toward the very heart of Cedar Creek's hidden truths. Suddenly, a deafening crack of thunder jolted everyone back to reality. The locket slipped from Maggie's fingers, clattering in the mud. She gasped, recognizing an unsettling shift in the atmosphere. The ground trembled slightly, and a ghostly mist began to swirl around the oak tree. The air thickened, its electricity crackling with unseen forces. "Get back!" Dylan shouted as panic broke out among the townsfolk, everyone scrambling away from the oak. But Maggie couldn't move. She felt rooted to the spot, as if Enoch was beckoning her closer. The mist coiled around her, growing thicker, and she caught glimpses of shapes moving within it, figures of people long gone, calling for her, warning her. Voices grew louder, but then they merged into a shrill cacophony, a warning echoing above the thunder. "You must choose." The words resonated deep within her. "Choose what?" She gasped, heart racing, feeling time stretching and warping as questions spiraled in her mind. In the distance, silhouettes began to emerge through the mist, figures hauntingly familiar. Were they the spirits of those lost in the dark chapters of Cedar Creek's history, or worse, were they the shadows of Enoch's fate? This was no ordinary storm. It felt like a reckoning. Maggie's heart thudded painfully in her chest as she strained to hear Enoch's whispered truths. Would she dare to step into the mist, to confront the legacy of Enoch? Or would she turn, abandoning the secrets hidden in the shadows? The air crackled with tension as the choice loomed before her, a decision that could alter everything. As the mist began to reach out toward the townsfolk, Maggie felt the pull. Could she possibly take that step forward into the unknown? And what would happen if she did? The storm howled, but a voice within her beckoned louder, and the mystery deepened. What lay hidden in the fog? What cost would come with unraveling the truth about Enoch? The mist wrapped around Maggie like a shroud, thick and damp, hiding faces that bore expression both desperate and longing. She felt a tremor beneath her feet and a pulse in her chest. Something was happening, and it would not be denied. The shadows moved closer, whispering her name, each syllable a promise and a threat. "Get out of there, Maggie!" Dylan's voice broke through the confusion, tinged with fear, but she couldn't budge. The lure was too strong. Every heartbeat drummed a rhythm. She couldn't ignore the rhythm of fate. Around her, the townsfolk watched with wide eyes, their faces pale, filled with apprehension and awe. "What is happening to her?" someone gasped from the crowd. Trees whipped in the wind, and lightning danced along the edges of the horizon, the storm seeming to respond to the chaos swirling around them. Maggie's gaze remained locked on the silhouettes that drifted closer in the fog. They felt familiar, yet ghostly, as if they were parts of herself she had long buried. With every blink, she saw flashes of their lives, snippets of laughter turned to anguish. Each image left her breathless. These were not just any spirits, they were the lost souls of Cedar Creek, remnants of a troubled past begging for recognition. "Why now?" she whispered to the fading figures, voice hoarse. Yet, a silence fell, pressing heavily around her. The storm seemed to pause, waiting. "Choose, Maggie!" Another voice shouted, this one deeper, more commanding. Enoch's presence loomed larger in her mind, filling her with tremors of dread and exhilaration. "You hold the key, and your choice will open the door to truths that this town has buried for too long." With trembling fingers, she reached out tentatively, feeling the light tug against her heart. The mist thickened, swirling as though alive, curling and weaving around her, encouraging her forward. Just a step. But uncertainty gripped her, squeezing tight. What would it mean to unearth these shadows? Could she handle the weight of their stories? Choose who you will become. Enoch's voice rang in her ears, echoing wildly against the backdrop of the tempest. She felt it a choice that was not just about the past, but also about her future. Seconds stretched on painfully. "I can't," she uttered, glancing back at the panicked faces in the gathering storm. They were scared, but they were also hopeful in their own way, clinging to the need for resolution and truth. The wind shrieked, urging her on. The figures morphed, portraying different faces. Some she recognized, others were merely shadows. And then it hit her, these souls were not just lost. They were connected to her family, to stories she had always heard but never truly understood. Heart pounding, Maggie took a deep breath, the words just barely escaping her lips. I want to understand. I choose to know. As the words left her mouth, the mist exploded. The space around her erupted with a powerful surge of energy, bright and blinding. The townsfolk leaped back, screams scattering into the wind. Shadowy figures began to swirl faster, coalescing into a singular form, a resonant force standing amidst the chaos. Maggie's heart raced as she realized she had summoned something ancient, something powerful. The haunting faces stretched in agony and relief, basking in the light she had conjured, releasing years of pain into the air. Enoch, what do you want me to know? She cried, the storm's hull diminished to a low hum as she connected with whatever force now surrounded her, but as quickly as the light blazed, a shadow stretched across it, dark and ominous. You have opened a door, a voice echoed, deep and hollow, but you may not close it. Now, you must face the truth. The mist enveloped her once more, swirling with unbridled intensity, launching Maggie into uncharted territory. The townsfolk stood in silence, fear etched on their faces, uncertain of what awaited them all. What had she unleashed? What was this truth they must now confront? A new figure loomed in the mist, one that left an even deeper chill trailing down her spine. Maggie inhaled sharply, bracing herself for what was about to be revealed. The mist thinned momentarily, revealing a figure that seemed to materialize out of the very fog itself. It stood tall, draped in robes that shimmered with a spectral light, its face obscured by a veil of shadows. Maggie's breath hitched in her throat as the weight of the moment pressed down like a lead blanket. This wasn't just any spirit, it was Enoch. Despite his ethereal quality, there was an unmistakable element of familiarity in his form, as if she had seen his likeness before, not just in the town's faded history, but within herself. Maggie, he spoke, his voice like gravel, yet soothing, wrapping around her like the mist. The time has come. To uncover the past is to understand your destiny. She felt dizzy. Did she truly want to know? Would the secrets of Cedar Creek reveal the truth she had long sought, or unearth horrors best left buried? The townsfolk stood at the perimeter, their faces etched with fear and anticipation. In their eyes, she glimpsed a glimmer of hope, mixed with dread. They felt it too, the pull of fate. Enoch, what happened here? Why are you like this? She pressed, struggling against the weight in her chest. The air crackled with tension, she could almost taste it, sharp like copper. For centuries, this town has been shielded from its demons, believing the past could be forgotten. But now he paused, a shudder sweeping through the air. But now, it is time to answer for the sins of those who came before you. His dark gaze pierced through her, and Maggie felt it like a knife in her gut. What sins? She tightened her grip on the glimmering energy around her, trying to find comfort in its warmth. Look closer, Maggie. The wind swirled, and the mist reformed, cascading images of flames and sorrow, memories she had never lived. Families torn apart, passion meeting brutality, and despair that had gripped Cedar Creek like a vice. A woman's scream shattered the silence, echoing through her mind. No! She cried out, torn between her desire to shield herself from the truth and the pang of realization that nestled deep within her heart. Your path is intertwined with theirs, Enoch insisted, his voice low yet resonant. You must embrace the souls that died in search of justice. They are your ancestors, and their stories are your foundation. Maggie's mind raced. How could she connect with pain she hadn't known? The weight of her heritage felt suffocating. But then, another image burst forth, a man, fierce and proud, holding a lantern against the night. It flickered, illuminating a yard with tombstones, the faces of those she loved floating in and out of view. They need you. Enoch's voice rose, urgency clawing at her. Face your fears, and join them. It's the only way to break the chains that bind this town. The crowd's hushed whispers blended with flashes of light and shadow, calling her name again and again. It rippled through her veins, electrifying everything inside. Stand tall, Maggie, and do not falter. She looked around, every pair of eyes reflecting back her own uncertainty, a mixture of hope and despair. The weight of their hopes crashed against her chest until a final surge of determination soared within her. She would own this moment. Then let them speak, she shouted. The air burst with energy, the mist swirling violently as it responded with a deafening roar. A spiral of memories erupted from the ground, weaving around Maggie like a tapestry of anguish and resilience. Together, she cried, summoning the spirits with her. Give me the strength to bear this truth. But just as the air began to shimmer, a sudden scream pierced the fog, freezing her in place. Maggie! Dylan's voice broke through the haze. The fear in his tone rattled her core. Get down! He yelled, his body rushing towards her through the chaos. As if responding to his cry, the mist twisted violently, pulling her back against something cold and malevolent. The figures erupted into a howl of rage, and before she could process what was happening, shadows leapt toward her, tangling their energy around her limbs. What had she awakened? What rage and wrath flowed through the very fabric of Cedar Creek? Maggie fought against the chains, but darkness enveloped her. Enoch, she cried out, desperate for guidance amidst the chaos. Suddenly, silence fell. The mist cleared, and a new presence approached, an overwhelming force that sent shivers down her spine. The eyes that met hers were devoid of mercy. Maggie, it whispered, a tone low and familiar. You have much to learn. Maggie's heart raced, her mind spinning. What now awaited her in this darkness, and how could she possibly confront it? The truth was far from settled, and the battle was just beginning. The ground trembled beneath her, a low rumble that vibrated through her bones. Maggie's breath quickened as the familiar voice wrapped around her like a snare. She turned her gaze toward the dark figure, anxiety curling in her stomach. The shadow shifted, a swirling mass around her, almost alive, embodying a rage that pulsed like an angry heart. Why now? She demanded, her voice cracking under pressure. What do you want from me? The figure stepped closer, the mist swirling around it like a shroud. To understand your lineage, you must first face the curse of Cedar Creek, it said, revealing features far too close to a memory, a scarred visage, familiar yet twisted by darkness. Who are you? Her voice trembled, and panic clawed at her throat. The residents behind her gasped, their faces reflecting back the fear that crept up her spine. I am your truth, and your torment, the figure hissed. I am the weight of your heritage, the sins you've inherited. Each word struck her like a hammer, chipping away at what little resolve she had left. Images flickered through her mind, flashes of anguish and bloodshed blending into a chaotic mosaic. Pain stretched across generations, the echoes of lost souls begging for release. It was no longer just a tale, it was a burden manifesting itself before her eyes. Maggie! Dylan's voice broke through again, laced with urgency. He stood at the edge of the crowd, his eyes wide, filled with terror for her safety. Don't listen to it! He pushed through the gathered townsfolk, desperation in each stride as he reached for her hand. But she couldn't move. She felt rooted to the earth, an unwilling spectator in this family drama long overdue for revelation. What do I have to do? She shouted at the figure, half in defiance, half in fear. The shadows twisted into the shape of a hand, gesturing toward the mist. Face your ancestors. Face your truth. The first step toward your freedom lies in understanding the words spoken in sorrow. With a shudder, she grasped Dylan's hand tightly. We can't abandon them. If this is what they want. As those words left her lips, an eerie calm fell upon the gathering. The figures, static in their dance of darkness, seemed to pause and listen. Listen, the voice deepened, resonating through her marrow. They yearn for justice, Maggie. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply, seeking a well of courage. Over the chaos, she felt the vibrational hum of those lost souls, their echo of pain wrapping around her heart like a vice. With an unsteady voice, she declared, I will find the truth. I will set you free. In that moment, a surge of energy shot through the ground, lifting her spirit and scattering the gloom. The mist reacted, patterns swirling in an unpredictable frenzy, illuminating the area with flashes of molten gold and azure. Together! She cried, filled with a strength she didn't know she possessed. Guide me. Show me the way. A sudden gale of wind rushed past, swirling the mist into a vortex that began to reshape the landscape. Maggie felt an undeniable pull, a call toward the images that floated around her like a dream slowly unsnarling. "Prepare." The dark figure growled, its form flickering like a candle's flame. Maggie found herself surrounded by faces hollow and filled with despair, but also hope. And then, it happened. A crack of thunder split the sky, causing everyone to flinch. The vision intensified, a chaotic montage of life and death, love and betrayal. She saw flashes of a burning building, a woman crying, clutching a child. Her heart raced as a familiar face lost in the fray materialized. "Maggie, you must confront her." A cold shiver wrapped around her. The familiar presence was hauntingly close, yet cloaked in a vulnerability she couldn't comprehend. "Who?" As if an answer, the mist thickened again, and the shadows of the past surged forward, drawing her closer to that awful truth. "Maggie." Dylan's voice reached her again, breaking through the haze. "Don't leave me." But as the mysterious figure faded into the depths of the fog, Maggie knew one thing: she could never turn back. The truth had ignited a fire deep inside her, and nothing could stop its burn. As the shadows danced around her, she felt a new power awaken, coursing through her veins as the past collided with the present. She prepared herself for whatever lay ahead, but the figure's eyes flashed one final time, leaving her with a chilling warning: your fate is intertwined. Embrace it, or perish in the darkness. Then, silence. What awaited her beyond that veil of shadow? Maggie's heart thundered as the last wisp of the figure dissolved into the mist. The air was pregnant with tension, an electric charge pulsing through the ground beneath her. It felt as if time itself had come to a standstill, the gathered crowd holding their breath, caught in a web of anticipation and fear. Together, she whispered to Dylan, squeezing his hand tighter. His warmth provided a flicker of comfort amid the cool terror swirling around her. But even as she looked into his pleading eyes, doubt crept in. What truth awaited her? Would she be able to handle it? Suddenly, the darkness pulsed again, the mist coiling tightly, revealing outlines of forgotten memories. Faces seemed to leap out of the shadows, their eyes pleading, mouths moving, though no sound reached Maggie's ears. A cacophony of silent screams wrapped around her. She felt as though she was drowning, lost in the collective sorrow of Cedar Creek. "Maggie!" Dylan's voice cut through the chaos again, sharper this time. "We can leave, let us just go." But her resolve hardened as she took in the mournful expressions. There was no escape now. "Hold on," she breathed, raising her other hand to the swirling mist. "Show me what I need to see." The fog drew away, parting like heavy curtains, unveiling a scene that took her breath away. A long-abandoned house stood before her, a specter of its former self, paint peeling, windows shattered. It looked familiar yet horrifying, as if it lived inside some dark recess of her memory. "Home," she murmured, realization dawning on her. "Do you see it?" The voice of the figure arose from the mist, now clear yet still haunting. "Every thread of your lineage begins here. Listen, they want to tell you something." With the surge of courage she felt, Maggie stepped towards the ruined house. Each step felt like stepping through history, dark whispers of despair enveloping her. A chill ran down her spine. What if she wasn't prepared for what awaited? "Stay with me," she urged Dylan, feeling his grip tightening around her. With trembling hands, she pushed open the warped door, the hinges groaning in protest. Inside, memories of laughter and love hung thick in the air, but that warmth was overshadowed by a deeper shadow lurking just beneath the surface. Ghostly images flitted in and out of focus, moments from her family's past, marred by secrets far darker than she had imagined. Then, a voice broke through the spectral memories, soft, yet dripping with sadness. Maggie, crying out her name, it echoed, resonating with her spirit. She recognized it. "Mom?" The stammer escaped her lips, heartbreak wrapped in disbelief. But instead of a joyful reunion, the figure shifted, revealing sorrowful eyes and cracked lips. "This place, it's cursed. You must know what happened," the apparition pleaded, reaching out as if to touch her. "Maggie!" "No!" Dylan's voice cracked, filled with urgency. He stepped into the house, fear etched across his face as he pulled her back, but something held her there, anchoring her in place. "Don't leave me," he urged, desperation lacing his plea. But Maggie felt drawn to the specter, an irresistible pull laced with hope. "Tell me. please. Tears streamed down her face as she beseeched the figure for clarity. The room began to pulse with energy, shadows swirling violently around her, surrounding her in a tempest of light and dark. Confront the pain. Extract the truth from your bloodline. The voice of her mother echoed, vibrating through the very walls of the house as the shadows thickened, twisting and turning like a living thing. Face her, you must face her. She couldn't understand. Whose face? Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a woman with wild hair and dark eyes piercing through the veil of mist that surrounded her. The heavy gaze held raw intensity, a blend of emotions that cut deeper than any blade. I'm here, she whispered, her voice raw. I've been waiting. Heart pounding, Maggie took a step forward, unable to turn away from the magnetism of that gaze. Who was this woman? And what hidden horrors lay between them? The world around her began to pulsate faster, every heartbeat syncing with the frantic rhythm of the storm brewing outside. She felt dizzy, lost in time, as shadows closed in tightly. Face her. And find your redemption. In that moment, a bone-chilling realization hit. The woman in the shadows was more than a stranger. She was the embodiment of truth, the key to Maggie's torment, the center of Cedar Creek's curse. What was she holding back? As the shadows writhed like serpents hungry for freedom, a scream shattered the air, loud and ear-piercing. Then silence fell, leaving only the echo of questions lingering in Maggie's mind. Could she really confront the truth and unravel her ancestry? Only one way to find out: what would happen when she stepped further into the darkness, and whose secrets would emerge from the shadows. The moment hung heavy, charged with unknown emotions, as Maggie stood captivated by the woman's gaze. There was a crackling energy in the air, the palpable weight of countless secrets pressing down on her shoulders. Who are you? Maggie whispered, her heart raced. The woman's lips trembled, forming words that felt centuries old. I am your darkness and your light, she replied, her voice echoing in the room, layered with pain and longing. I am everything you have been afraid to confront. Fear surged through Maggie, heated and suffocating. She wanted to flee back to the safety of Dylan's embrace, to forget what her lineage had woven in shadow and sorrow. But she couldn't. What do you mean? Maggie pressed, desperate. She had to know. Do you see them? The woman's hand swept through the room, guiding Maggie's attention to the swirling shadows. The faces you buried? They are part of you. Part of us. Maggie was drowning in questions, but her voice was a mere whisper. Why are they trapped here? The living cannot forget, the figure replied, her eyes glistening with tears that mirrored Maggie's own. You have to unearth the truth before you can break the curse. Dylan's grip tightened on her arm, pulling her back slightly. Maggie, please. We can get out of here. We don't have to do this, he pleaded, his voice a soft anchor in the storm of panic inside her, but Maggie shook her head. She had started this journey, and now she needed to see it through. I can't leave them, she whispered, more to herself than to him. You must confront her, the specter instructed, a deep sorrow resting in her weary voice. Her truth is your truth. A dark shape detached itself from the shadows and took form with shocking clarity. It was a mirror image of the woman before her, wild hair and all, yet there was an unmistakable darkness snaking around her, a hatred that was palpable. Look at me. The figure growled. You're nothing but a coward hiding from our legacy. Maggie stumbled backward, staring into the eyes of her doppelganger. They held secrets masked in fury, a cyclone of rage that churned mercilessly in her gut. What do you mean? She gasped, feeling the air grow thick, straining to breathe against the looming terror. You think you can escape from what lies in your blood? The shadow resemblance hissed. You think those who came before you will let you leave without knowing the truth? A shiver coursed through Maggie as disdain poured from the shadow's eyes. They bore witness to horrors Maggie couldn't comprehend, dark choices that wormed through her veins. The room lurched with energy, shadows writhing like trapped animals desperate for freedom. I'm not afraid, she stated, her voice more resolute than she felt, but deep down a quivering uncertainty bubbled. Then face me. The shadow spat back, lunging closer, an embodiment of everything dark and forbidden. Maggie. Dylan's voice broke through, raw with worry. You have to listen to me. This isn't worth it. But in that moment, something snapped inside her, igniting her spirit. Perhaps it wasn't worth the risk of losing herself, but what was the cost of ignorance? Fine, then, Maggie said, her voice steady as steel. I will face you. As she took a tentative step forward, the shadow recoiled in a flash of rage, dark wisps reaching for her. The spectral figures in the room began to swirl violently around her, creating chaos, the air charged with an almost sickening tension. Then it happened. The room exploded with piercing screams. Muffled voices of the bygone echoed like banshees crying out for deliverance. Each one wrapped around her heart, squeezing tight. Maggie, don't! Dylan shouted again, panic lacing his tone. But his figure blurred, lost in the storm of memories assaulting her senses. Maggie steadied herself, tears stinging her eyes as confusion washed over her. This was her heritage: fear, sorrow, and an unbroken cycle of hurt. But what was it she truly needed to confront? Enough! Maggie shouted, squeezing her fists at her sides. I'm not backing down. The shadow laughed, a horrible sound filled with malice and resentment. You may want me, but you won't love the truths I bring. With renewed determination, Maggie stepped closer, ready to ignite the flame within, desperate to unravel the nightmare that loomed over Cedar Creek. In that moment, she realized, she had to face the darkness wearing her face and discover what truth lay hidden behind the flickering shadows. As the slithering darkness wrapped tighter around her, a question lingered in the air like a choking fog. Would Maggie peel back the layers of her family's history, and would she survive it? Her heart raced as she prepared to dive deeper into the abyss, knowing that whatever came next would change her forever. Maggie's breath hitched, each gasp pulling her deeper into the chaos that threatened to consume her whole. The shadows, once swirling in the periphery, now twisted grotesquely around her. She felt their despair, a cold dread crawling under her skin like 1,000 icy fingers. Yet, a flicker of defiance sparked within her, a primal urge to unveil the truth. Show me! She screamed, her voice a battle cry against the rising tide of anguish. Show me the truth! The shadow before her snarled, eyes blazing with fury, its form shimmering like a dark flame. You're sure you want this? The truth is a double-edged sword. It cuts deep. I'm not afraid of the blade, Maggie declared, the conviction in her voice surprising even herself. As if her determination sliced through the darkness, she felt the ghostly figures lurch, swirling with renewed energy. They whispered in frantic unison, a chorus of lost souls beckoning her closer. Maggie Dillon's voice trembled, laced with concern, but it barely registered. She could feel it again, the pull of her lineage, the weight of her ancestors pressing around her like a suffocating cloak. Silence! The shadow bellowed, its words cracking like thunder. They cannot help you, child. Only I can unveil the horrors that lie in your blood. As their eyes locked, Maggie saw not just malice but fear and desperation, the same fear that had kept her mother at bay, the same desperation that seeped through her family's history like a haunting melody. What horrors? What did they do? Maggie could hardly comprehend the emotions clashing within her, courage battling against the paralyzing terror of the unknown. The shadow's form flickered and morphed, memories converging into a tangible reality. She witnessed flashes of a time long past, a woman who shared her features, kneeling in sorrow, her cries echoing desperately into an abyss where shadows blended with screams. Tears poured down Maggie's cheeks, mixing with the memories assaulting her so fiercely it hurt to breathe. Let me go! She cried, unwilling to be bound by the sins of those who came before her, yet drawn to the truth that evaded her for so long. I have my own life to live. But you can't run. The shadow hissed, lunging forward, the room trembling with its rage. You are tethered to this darkness. You cannot escape your fate. Panic surged within Maggie, her heart racing, threatening to drown her anew. But I don't want to carry this burden. You cannot choose what burdens you bear when your blood ties you to the darkness, it retorted, howling with wicked delight. You are one with the past. It will always haunt you. Just as it haunts me. In that instant, something shifted. A soft glow penetrated the oppressive darkness, illuminating the spectral figures with a flicker of hope. Maggie's resolve hardened. Then let us confront it together.
I won't do this alone.
The shadow hesitated, uncertainty flickering in its malevolent eyes. The other spirits paused too, their whispers fading into silence, momentarily captivated by her declaration. Maggie Dillon's voice brushed against her like a warm breeze.
You don't have to fight this alone. With each word, the energy in the room transformed.
The embers of warmth and courage began flickering in the darkness, pushing back against the shadows that clawed at her. Face the truth, accept it, and it won't haunt you anymore, the specter finally relented, its voice softer, a combination of challenge and almost despair. Reveal it, Maggie commanded, her voice firm, refusing to falter as the room vibrated around her. As the darkness shifted, revealing a greater truth than she had ever feared, time seemed to freeze. Faces flooded her vision, a tapestry of pain and regret intertwining with courage and defiance. What secrets lay buried? What truths waited in the shadows? Maggie felt the pulse of her lineage call out to her, revealing that she stood at the very precipice of discovery. But just as clarity approached, a bone-chilling scream ripped through the room, echoing off the walls, striking like lightning.
Fear struck Maggie like a
physical blow, shock freezing her in place. What awaited her on the other side of truth? As the figures began to swirl around her once more, a cloud of darkness loomed heavy in the air. The scream faded, but the haunting questions remained, pressing tightly against her mind.
Would she find liberation or just another layer of horror waiting to unfold?
Maggie's heart raced, each thought echoing against the suffocating silence that clung to the air. The figures hovered in anticipation, eyes wide, waiting for an answer that felt miles away. A deep chill settled in her bones as the last remnants of the scream lingered, vibrating through the air with an urgency that clawed at her throat.
Please, she whispered, desperate for understanding. What is it you want me to see?
The shadow shifted again, the flickering form growing more defined.
With painstaking slowness, it reached out, coalescing into a hand made of darkness.
It gestured forward, urging her to take the plunge into the depths of her heritage. Show me everything, she pushed, the words spilling out like a spell breaking the curse that held her. The air thickened, vibrating with a pulse, as if her plea had ignited a dormant power within the shadows. Suddenly, the darkness exploded into vivid images that bombarded her senses. She saw herself running through the woods behind her childhood home, laughter bubbling up from her throat. But the laughter twisted, morphing into sobs, shadows pulling at her ankles, dragging her back into the memories she tried to forget. Stop! I won't let you control me! Maggie shouted, her voice cutting through the cacophony. But she wasn't in control. A torrent of memories flooded back her mother, hollow-eyed and trembling, whispering warnings of a curse that had befallen their lineage. She blinked away tears, the pain of betrayal feeling as real as if it had happened just moments ago. The shadow loomed closer, its voice dripping with knowledge.
Do you see? You cannot escape what is written in your blood. Generations of anguish and secrets twist around you, binding you to a past you cannot outrun.
Maggie swallowed hard, fighting the despair rising in her throat.
But there has to be a way to change it. To break free.
The specters around her surged forward, their faces tortured amalgamations of sorrow and fury. What you seek is not freedom, Maggie.
It's acceptance.
Only then can you wield the truth to create a new path. The landscape around her shifted, revealing the figure of a man cloaked in shadows, their family patriarch, Enoch.
Then let me see him, she demanded, fear giving way to raging determination.
The darkness hesitated, the shadows wincing. Maggie felt an electric crackle in the air, a promise of power unfurling within her reach. As if reacting to her words, the shadows folded inwards, revealing Enoch's face, twisted with regret and haunting wisdom. She locked eyes with him, and her breath caught in her throat. She felt his pain wash over her, waves of despair threatening to pull her under. Maggie, he rasped, his voice echoing around her like the wind whispering through trees. You are the last. You must choose wisely, for you hold the key to our family's fate. It's time to face the darkness within you and embrace what you are. Reality cracked around her, anger and frustration igniting.
But I didn't choose this. I didn't ask for any of it.
You inherit more than just memories, the shadow declared, its tone shifting to one of grim acceptance.
You inherit the power to reshape them. Will you be the one who finally breaks the cycle? Tension thickened in the air, dangling like a taut wire ready to snap. Maggie stared into Enoch's eyes, searching for guidance. In that moment, she realized that the weight pressing against her chest could either crush her or it could ignite a fire that would fuel her pursuit of freedom from the darkness. But with every heartbeat, the room darkened, shadows swelling like a tempest around her, threatening to consume everything she held dear. Could she harness this truth? Could she confront the horrors and emerge stronger, or would the blood of her ancestry chain her to the past forever? In the midst of the swirling chaos, a single word pierced through the confusion: reveal. What awaited her beyond that command? Would she find empowerment or only deeper darkness? As the echo of her command resounded through the storm-laden air, darkness quivered, then began to unravel. The swirling shadows that had felt so dense and suffocating started to pull away, revealing fragments of the past that haunted Cedar Creek like an untold story. Faces of ancestors, twisted with grief, anger, and longing, emerged slowly and painfully from the depths, their eyes pleading for understanding and redemption. Maggie stood firm, her heart a drum in her chest. Each face that appeared carried a weight of history that resonated deeply within her. She felt their sorrows wrap around her, and for the first time, she understood the depth of the pain locked in her lineage. They needed their truth to be spoken. It was the only way to set them free and herself as well. "Tell me," she urged, passion igniting her voice as she stepped forward, ready to confront whatever she must. "What do I need to know?" The specters hovered close, and Enoch's shadow shifted nearer. "Your choice cannot be taken lightly. It will define not just your future, but the fate of all those who came before you." The shift in energy around her sent chills down her spine. Maggie bit her lip, feeling the fear surging inside her, fighting the instinct to flee. She glanced back at the townsfolk, their faces a collage of hope and dread, uncertain of what would come next. Dylan, standing firmly by her side, met her gaze with his warm and encouraging eyes, a silent reminder that she was not alone. "Embrace them," Enoch urged, his voice transforming into a unison chant among the spirits, growing stronger. "They will guide you, lift the shadows that haunt you, if you can face what you've always feared the most." At that moment, an enormous energy surged through her, a crackling pulse, as if the shadows themselves were granting her access to truths long buried. She could feel her ancestors' stories intertwined with her own narrative, each revealing pieces of the identity that had been shackled by fear and silence for too long. Together, she whispered, urging herself on. "Let me break this cycle." She closed her eyes, concentrating on her breathing as she reached out, trying to connect with the spirits that were now all around her. Suddenly, a vision consumed her. She was transported through time, standing on familiar ground, the woods behind her childhood home. The laughter faded, transforming into whispers of her family, the curses of a forgotten lineage as they recounted stories of betrayal and survival. Images flooded her mind, her mother's pain, the anguish of her ancestors, trapped in a loop of guilt and resentment. Each one carried burdens heavier than the last, and their cries pulled at her heart with an intensity she couldn't ignore. "No more!" she screamed, her voice fierce. "I refuse to let this continue. I will honor your pain, but I will not let it destroy me." As she spoke those words, the apparition surged forward, now protecting her like a wall against the darkness. The cacophony of their screams transformed into resolute chants. "Release us," they cried. "Set us free." The shadows around her began to twist and writhe as if in response. The figure resembling Maggie's darker side screamed in rage, its fury spitting fire into the mist, but the collective power of the ancestors was stronger. They embraced her, their energy blending with hers, igniting a warmth that pushed back against the cold. "Face the truth," Enoch's voice broke through. "Your family's sins do not define you. It is your choices now that will shape your legacy." Maggie opened her eyes, determination blazing within her. "I choose healing. I choose to carry your stories, not as a weight, but as a beacon guiding the future." At that moment, she understood that her pain did not have to be the end, it could be a beginning. The mist erupted in a radiant explosion, a light so bright that it eroded the darkness surrounding her. The energies of her ancestors pulsed with vibrant colors, merging into a beautiful spectrum that illuminated her very being. This was their truth, and now it was hers to honor. For the first time, the shadows began to recede, revealing the town of Cedar Creek in all its natural beauty, a place now unbound from the shackles of its painful past.
The darkness that had held the town captive became a whisper, a memory of what had been, but no longer a fear that would govern their lives. "Together, we are free!" Maggie exclaimed, the words ringing clear and true. The echoes of sorrow transformed into songs of relief, filling the air with a powerful, unyielding hope. The crowd blinked in awe, witnessing the transformation. A collective breath released as history shed its chains. The old oak tree that stood at the center of town shimmered, the hallowed ground of Enoch's legacy embraced by light rather than shadow. "Thank you," she said, tears streaming down her face, filled with gratitude for the spirits that guided her toward understanding and healing. "I promise this will not go forgotten." As she turned around to look at her friends and family, she knew they had all experienced something profound together, a connection that would bind Cedar Creek anew. With a final glance at the mist, now dissipated into shimmering dust particles floating in the night air, Maggie felt a sense of overwhelming peace. The past was indeed dark, but the truth held a light that could guide them into a brighter future. The wind picked up slightly, swirling around her, carrying whispers of her family's story. These were the stories she would share, the revelation she would cultivate, and together they would weave a new legacy. It was done. And so, with a heart full of hope and a spirit unbroken, Maggie took a step forward, no longer rooted, but fully alive and moving boldly towards the dawn settling over Cedar Creek, ready to embrace whatever came next. Now, if you loved this wild ride and want to join our amazing community for even more exclusive stories like this one, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to smash that like button, show your support and help us feed the algorithm. And hey, don't close out before flooding the comments section with your reactions and theories. I want to know what you think about the ending. Finally, take a moment to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to be part of this journey. Let us spread the truth together. Your support means everything to us.